Join us each Saturday for the Justice is Here podcast, an innovative, revolutionary podcast that speaks to justice for all party members across America. We'll speak to leadership, we'll speak to activists, and most of all, we want to hear your opinion. So if you're tired of the two-party system and how it doesn't work for you, tune into this podcast to learn how we can take back the justice that we deserve. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the 21st episode of the Justice is Here podcast. I'm so happy to be joined by my guest. But before I get to him, we have a few little bills we got to get paid off here. So first, make sure you are visiting the Justice for All website. The website address is Justice for All. I said Justice is Here. Visit the Justice for All website at justiceforall.us. Justiceforall.us. One more time for good measure. That is justiceforall.us. Subscribe. We are up to 376. Again, 1,000 is the goal. That puts us 624 away from 1,000. I hope my math is good. So you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. It literally costs nothing. Follow the Justice is Here podcast on TikTok once I figure out how to use it. You could definitely follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and special announcement next month, August the 30th, this channel will be sponsoring a Justice for All Fundraiser-A-Thon. We've got entertainment, we've got guests, we've got everything planned. I'm personally planning on a 3-hour show, and the goal is to raise $25,000 for the work of the Justice for All Party. So be sure to mark your calendars, come out and join us and have a lot of fun. And of course, we need talent for that show. So if you sing, if you dance, if you play an instrument, or you read poetry, be a part of the fundraiser. Again, our goal is to raise $25,000 to advance the work of the JFA. Lend us your talent by following that form right there. And Joe, how are you?
Doing well. How about you, Tracy?
I'm busy. I am busy. I said last week when Ashton was here. Oh, and thank you for being here.
Definitely.
I said I never thought, if you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be helping to start a new political party, I just would have laughed. I just would have laughed in your face and been like, are you kidding me? This isn't what I want to do. And life's, and you are in places that you don't expect, but I don't want to be anyplace else.
I get that. I mean, like 5 years ago, it was the thick of COVID and all that sort of stuff. And that was also sort of the phase of really my political awakening at a whole new level. And I never expected it to land me where it's landed me as far as some of the stuff I've done, whether it was pre-Justice for All stuff or diving into Justice for All stuff. It's not where I expected to find myself, but at this point, I think it's sort of like, what is it? Once you take the blue pill, you can't go back.
I thought
They
it was
can't
blue
put you
pill, red pill.
whichever one it is, the blue pill or the red pill. One of them gets you out of the matrix, and once you're out of the matrix, you can't go back in. Although I guess they did sort of put him back in if you look at the later, the last movie in the series. But anyway.
Well, we were going to talk about, and we're still going to talk about, I'm holding on to major news, yeah, and I want to tell it so bad. I'm just like, I want to tell it, but I can't. Until the committee that I'm on, the convention committee, gives me permission and says, yes, Tracy, you can announce this, because it's big. It's big, and I can't. I can keep secrets, but this one is killing me on the inside. I want to just scream it out so bad, but I'm gonna try to hold on to it.
I have a feeling we have something like a date and a location coming
Yeah,
soon.
it's something like that, but we can't quite tell it just yet because I did not ask permission. But I'm like, but we have both. We have both. That see, I didn't tell it, so don't when the committee comes on here.
We'll see. What we need to do now is get all of the committee in on the podcast and in the comments, and they can all
Oh,
just
you
say in
just
the comments, you can tell.
you know what? They will all be my guests August the 9th.
There we go.
The entire committee, the entire convention committee will be my guests. So I don't want to wait. I'm like, I don't want to wait till then. I don't want to wait till then. But Joe, see, it was Joe that told it. It wasn't me. I didn't say anything.
Nope. Wasn't Tracy. It was all me. All me.
It was him, not me. I kept it. But I do want to talk about, you know, I hate to go backwards, but since we're just freeforming it today, and everybody who's watching this, please say hello. Everybody on the JFA committee list should have gotten an announcement that I'm live now. So you all could just check in with your questions, say hello, type in your thoughts, because I'm going to need them tonight. Thank you very much for doing that. So I want to talk about, because you're in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado was one of the states where Dr. West actually made the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you briefly go over like how did that all work out? Because I'm in Indiana, and we're one of the four. There are 4 states that stink in terms of ballot access: Texas, New York, Indiana, and I'm going to even throw California in there. Those 4 states are terrible. How did you all get Dr. West on the ballot?
We had, honestly, in Colorado, we had probably the easiest path, or one of the easiest paths, in the sense that there was a existing third party, so a minor party that had a ballot line item that was trying to find a candidate that it wanted to put on, and it put out sort of like an open invitation to, I mean, it was like at the time, Kennedy was running as an independent. Obviously, Dr. West was running as an independent. There were some other independent candidates floating around out there, and they basically said, hey, come pitch us on why you should be our nominee for president. And Dr. West campaign made a intentional effort to say, all right, let's get as many people in Colorado who are interested in signing up to be a part of this, get yourself, change your political party membership over to this party. So now you can come in and you can vote for Dr. West to be the candidate. And so basically we routed it that way. And the question moving forward for us is, are we going to do something similar 3 years from now, or for the next cycle? Are we going to, do they want to really work with us? Do we want to work with them? How does this all line up as far as everybody's interest moving forward? But going back, that was how we got on. It was really easy that way.
That is so super easy.
Yeah.
And now it makes me mad. This ballot access. Yes, I know everybody. I go off on these rants. Just get used to it. Ballot access shouldn't be this difficult.
No.
And I get every state is different. Every state has different dynamics. Every state has different populations. But to have to go through getting 2% in our state, you have to get 2% of the attorney general's vote, which means, one, we have to hope for a low voter turnout. That's not what we want. And second, we have the most petty election board. They don't give you space to write your name, so they have an easier out as terms of throwing away votes. in other words, if your name has an I in it, oh, you didn't dot the I, or you didn't
Hmm.
cross your T, or you put down a one. Is that an L? And it's so ridiculous. And I wish like ballot access was more of a we got to fix this
Hmm. Yeah.
thing.
Well, no, and the whole thing is it's intentionally done that way to maintain a duopoly.
Exactly. But you would never know it. I mean, what did the Democrats spend? $20 million to keep Dr. West off the ballot? I'm like,
Hmm.
you could have spent that 20 million other ways. I mean,
Oh, they found lots of ways to waste lots of 20 millions. So, you know.
I'm just saying if and here's what I'll say, if he wasn't such a threat,
Hmm.
why did they offer him a cabinet position? Why? Just why? He's not. I mean, literally, I heard Harris say something like, "Well, that's not our threat right now." Okay, so why are you offering him uh, a position if he drops out? Sounds
Hmm.
like you think he's a threat.
Yeah, there's something going on in that system where it's and I think at some end there is an arrogant assumption on the part of Democrats that you and I, if Dr. West wasn't running, that you and I would have voted for them. That somehow we would have defaulted to that spot as opposed to, anything from finding another third party candidate to writing in somebody's name to just staying home.
That
So
is so
there's,
illogical. I had so many. I was like, okay, if I don't vote for Dr. West, I'll vote for Claudia De La Cruz. And if I don't
Mhm,
vote, I mean, I had a list of people. Like, I will vote for all of these people. Of course, Dr.
mhm.
West was my first choice. But it wasn't like, okay, if he's not running, I would even win Green Party.
Mhm.
There was
Well,
no circumstance where I was going to be like, you know what? Let me vote for that genocide.
and
Yep.
and we're not outliers in that, in the sense that, as I understand it, like all of the research that was done showed that most of these third party folks, or at least the Dr. West voters, were not going to be voting for one of the main two parties, and a lot of those, it was actually, you were seeing new voter registration, you were seeing new voters who, people who would have stayed home otherwise were coming out. So it was activating voter base, um, as opposed to taking voters away from the Democrats.
Oh, I hate that saying. I hate that saying. I don't know if you're familiar with my other show that this is a spinoff of. Congratulations to the 47th President of the United States, Dr. Cornel West. That's the one that got on my nerves. I would talk about the five things that people would say in terms of talking against the campaign, and that was one that
Hmm.
it just scratches my mind. They're taking away votes. Like you don't have to earn them.
Well,
You don't have to do anything. They're yours. So
they,
you
they were
have the
yours, and yeah, that somehow you had a right to that vote.
yeah.
And
It's like this is a monarchy now. They just belong to you.
yeah,
I
never
thought
mind that. I don't know when the last time we had an election where, did not vote didn't win.
exactly.
So if you get all of your did not voters to come out for you, then you haven't there has been no taking of votes. You actually earned a vote from someone who usually sits on the couch.
That's the whole purpose of running for office, right? When you run
Hmm.
for office, if I'm running for office, I'm not running for office. I haven't made up my mind yet. But if I ran for office, my whole point is to take votes away from you and make sure they vote for me. And
Hmm.
your point is to take votes from me and make them vote for you. That's kind of an understood point. So it's like this
But
entitlement.
I think there's also this reality, not of I'm going to, grab votes from this. There is the majority of people, or the a significant number of people, especially in a first past the post kind of situation. Your winner actually didn't even go to the polls. So if you're taking people that normally don't vote and getting them to vote for you, it's not like you took a vote. They could still get the same number of votes they got, and you could still win because the I can't say the majority because it's not a 50%, but it's the most significant percentage is still people that didn't vote. So you could take all the votes that the Democrats got, all the votes that the Republicans got, and figure out who wins that way as far as the number of people who voted. But there's still more people on the couch than voted for either of them. And so if
And
you get those people to come to vote for you, which is like they talk a lot with Trump, is that Trump managed to actually pull low propensity voters. And a lot of the manosphere podcast bros, that sort of thing, he was getting guys that usually don't vote to come vote for him.
everything you're saying, ditto. Just ditto. It's like, again, for me, it's the entitlement that just makes me want to throw up. You are not entitled. It's like, this is our position. Sure, we voted for genocide, and sure, we didn't vote for a $15 minimum wage. Ignore that part. Just vote for us because we're better than the other guy.
Or we're not the other guy.
Oh yeah,
not it's not even a situation of like we're better. It's we're not as bad as. It's a their worse vote, not a we're better vote.
Or better yet, let's talk about Project 2025 all the time, but never have a plan to combat any of it. Let's just talk about how it's terrible. And I'm not saying Project 2025 is not real. That was never my criticism of it. My criticism was, okay, where's your plan to alleviate it? Where's your Project 2020? You aren't saying anything but what's in it. Okay, so what you're going to do about it? Like, you're doing nothing but saying this plan is terrible. Okay, so your plan is what?
Yeah.
I couldn't understand it. And here's the other thing I can't understand. Some people low-key blaming independent voters for not voting for Kamala or Kamala. I don't get genociders' names right, so I don't care. Somehow Trump is our fault. And I say, Ann, you ran a terrible candidate. You lost. Get over it. You ran like possibly. There was no way I was going to vote for Joe Biden when he was running. No way. It wasn't happening. I don't care. Nothing. But I thought, well, maybe I'll give her a chance. And then I remembered that quote she said. She said, I'm not going to do anything just for Black people. I said, oh, well, that's it. Bye. That does it. I'm done. I don't have to hear anything else. I'm done.
Yeah. Well, no. And I think I was sort of in the same boat. It was like, all right, I'll listen to what she has to say. And like the first like policy kind of thing she did was talking about like things to address, cost of groceries, things to address, price gouging. That was like the first sort of policy thing that she sort of floated out there. And then she like backpedaled on all of that and went off in, nothing's going to fundamentally change from Biden, which is interesting that we had Biden who said nothing's going to fundamentally change to the business community. And then we had Kamala who's like, I can't think of a thing that I would do differently than Joe Biden.
And ran as a change candidate. How are you going to run as a change candidate and you're not going to change anything?
We are going to change the gender of the person who occupies the White House.
Oh, and the race.
That was the change. The gender and the level of melanin.
I'm like, you're running as the change candidate, but you're saying change nothing. Okay. And this whole thing, and I'm so thankful for platforms like The Intercept that found this out. Lie number 2. We're working tirelessly for a ceasefire. Gee, come to find out that was a lie.
Well, I mean, there is no such thing. I mean, I think Ilhan Omar nailed it. It's like if you're working tirelessly for a ceasefire, all you do is stop sending them bombs.
That's the easiest way to do it.
Done.
Don't send them any money. I bet you it'd be a ceasefire real quick if we just stop sending bombs. Like, okay, well, like what is Israel gonna do to us? Like what? We're giving them money, not the other way around.
Well, if you want to get into all the Epstein conspiracy there, they're gonna reveal all the horrible things that these leaders have done because they're all
Reveal it. I hope they do. Reveal it. Reveal it. I want to see everybody. I want to see all the names of those. I gotta be careful because I already got 2 strikes against me. And I'm like, I got 1 strike. I don't need 2 strikes because you get 3, you're gone. So I gotta be real careful what I say. But please, if you got it, expose it. Because we need to know people that take advantage of children in ways they shouldn't be taken advantage of. Period. But I want to talk about something I've never, and I think I've kind of addressed it before because I do see we got some comments in the comment section, and one of them I want you to comment on because I think this is necessary, but I'm not sure if I want to do it. So Nelson says, how's it going? Life is not a party unless it's a justice for all party. I think we should get a t-shirt made of that. I literally think that should be a t-shirt. We don't have a merchandise store, but that should be just
there we go.
Right there. I'm leaving it up so I can
so much truth
it.
that there's not justice for all. Then you're not really like life isn't a party at that point. I mean, you can do the most you can with it, but there's that lack of the essence of the thing that brings the celebration.
Yep. So I'm leaving it up there on purpose so that I can go back later and screenshot it because this is going to be my suggestion. Like, life is not a party unless it's the justice for all party. And thank you, Nelson. And your book is on the way. Nelson was one of the ones who won our trivia contest last week. So he got a copy of Democracy Matters by Dr. West.
Nice.
And then Tim says, like, share, comment, like, subscribe, share, comment. And of course, he's got to put this and run for Congress with the Justice for All party.
I think that's right to you there, Tracy.
I don't even get why people think this is a good idea. I'm like, do y'all know I have a smart mouth? So y'all know I'm just.
Don't we need more of that?
No, we don't. No.
Don't we need some truth tellers, people to call people out?
There's a difference between telling the truth and then doing what I do. See, I have this big problem called sarcasm. It's a real big problem for me, and I don't really know how to control it. I don't know if I can do it, but of course, we're having a meeting on August the 15th to determine what people are going to try to convince me to run for office. I'll put the link in next week. I won't do it this week. If you want to come, try to convince me, but I'm just not convinced that, especially the district that I am in, because the district that I'm in, the congressman who's been there for like at least 12, 13 years, he's never lost. He's always gotten at least 80 to 90% of the vote. And I feel like the only way I run is I have to have a chance of winning. And if I go up against them, I have no chance. And I'm like, I can't waste my effort. I can't.
I don't know. Maybe that's sarcasm and dropping all the truth bombs and calling him out and highlighting all of the evil and vile things he does and letting people know the reality. Maybe that's exactly what you need there.
That's the other thing. My only complaint against him, he never has community meetings, but he's right on Gaza. Like, okay. I'm like, okay, he's right on that. So there's not too much disagree with them on and say, yeah, I mean, he definitely should have community meetings, but there's not a lot that I'm saying, well, he's just terrible. Not like this new person we got running into Indiana. I'll talk about that tomorrow, but Indiana is the Texas of the North. I promise y'all, it's the Texas of the North. I'm like, oh my goodness.
It is the land of Mike Pence, so.
We sorry. We are so sorry. We did not mean that man has the personality of a slice of bread. I mean, just no, like, where did the Republic? They have, you can say whatever you want about Trump. You can say he's evil. You can say he's misogynist, racist, homophobic. You can say, I will never not say he doesn't have a personality. I just will never say that. Pence, he's like white bread with mayonnaise on it. I'm just like, do you ever smile? Do you ever raise your voice? what are you doing? It's like, I've been married to who?
Mother.
He does. Thank you. And he calls his wife mother. That's not 1952. And of course,
And yet, I remember I used to drive rideshare stuff, and it was crazy because I'd get these guys in my car that were like going on a trip, and they're like, I hope I got everything packed because my girlfriend's out of town and I'm not sure what all I need. And I'm like, do you have a partner, or do you have like, are you looking for a mom in a partner? I'm like, it's weird that there's actually, as creepy as his whole calling his wife mother thing sounds, I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that they sort of want a hot mom that they can date.
but she's not even hot. She's not busted up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the woman is unattractive. That's not what I'm saying. But you're married to her. The day that I ever call some man that the only person I call my daddy is my daddy, like the man with my mother who created me. That's my daddy. Not, and I know a lot of women do that. He my dad. No, he's not. My daddy is named Floyd L. Carson Sr. That's my daddy, not you, sir. You, sir, are not my daddy. Yuck. And we also gave the nation Dan Quayle. Do put an E at the end of potato. We sorry, America. We are so sorry. We did not. We just thought if we could contain them in our little state.
See, Tracy, you've got to run.
No, I don't.
You've got to be the answer to Dan Quayle and Mike Pence. You've got to, like, for the integrity of Indiana, you've got to rise up.
I'm thinking about moving. I'm like, you know what? I want to live somewhere else. Because I'm like, but then I look at the cost of living. I'm like, I'm going to stay right where I'm at because it's hard.
Yeah.
But that mother thing, why did you bring that? Oh my gosh, that's creepy. Oh, mother. Yuck. And if they have children together, assuming the children call her mother and he's calling her mother, and she's okay with this? Oh gosh. I want to throw up. That's a family values. That sounds like some I can't think of those two Southern lovers that were, they was like Romeo and Juliet, but it was like the South version of it. Whatever those two families are, that's it. But that's what we do. This is what America wants. I am fully convinced that, man, we got a fire truck going by. I hate living down the street from a fire station. I literally hate it because silence is all I hear. I'm convinced that people that voted for Trump felt like they had no choice. Now, before everybody jumps on me and says, you didn't vote for Kamala because she's black. Hello. Look at my skin color. Look. Because apparently it was racism and sexism, not her stance on Gaza, not her stand on saying that she would not change anything that Joe Biden did, not the hey, let's make the railroad workers, don't let them strike. It was none of that. It was just racism and sexism.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's sort of like with Hillary, that it was all about sexism. And I sort of ran at the spot when people brought up black woman, and I'm like, well, my problem is that, like, her policy is bad for black women and children.
Exactly. I'm like, have you read her policy? Well, she's not Trump. No, that's not a reason. Look, if I was just going to go with this, she's not vote for anybody but Trump, I'm going to vote for Dr. Cornel West. He's not Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Is Dr. West Donald Trump? No. You're going to have to come up with something more than, she's not Trump. That makes it good that she didn't negotiate for a ceasefire. That makes it good that she was for Medicare for all, but then against Medicare for all. She was against fracking. Now she's for fracking.
It was the debate.
Wait a minute.
That was her great line, is like all of the things that she said she was for that now she was against. Oh, you
I
shouldn't take it
literally
seriously because I just
forgot
said it
that
in a
was her
debate.
excuse. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Now, Nelson, you wrong for this one. I gotta put, where does Dan Quayle put his pate on his toe? Wow. Wow. Nelson on his toe. And that poor little kid was like, no, this is wrong. But he couldn't tell him because back then kids had respect. So he was like, oh, okay, I'll put it, but this isn't right. You could tell he wanted to say it. It's like, this isn't right. Go back and Google it. Yeah. Google Dan Quayle puts an E at the end of potato and watch that kid like, this is not right. This is not right. And he did it. But boy, you could tell today's kids are not like those kids of, let's see, Dan Quayle was vice president. When was George H.W.?
Yeah, that would have been 88 to 92.
I was 14. I was 14. I was 14, y'all.
88. Yeah, I was 14. Same here. I turned 14 in 88.
Oh my gosh, that seems like decades ago. And I'm like, and I still remember it. Oh, and of course we had that one vice president that was assassinated once he became president. That that we don't pick your vice presidents from Indiana. Please stop doing that. Don't just leave Indiana at the discussion. Don't do it. Don't. But yeah, back on I forgot she said it was the debates. It was the debates. Okay, so that means
So don't trust what I say on the
don't
debate
trust
stage. Don't
anything I
trust what I
say.
campaign on. Don't trust what I actually put out there. Trust what my consultants are now telling me to say.
If she had just stayed on the price gouging thing, if she had just stayed right there,
No, if she'd held on the economic sort of
and held on
factors
her,
and wanted to make life better for human
just
beings,
stayed with that, she may have had a better shot. I'm not gonna say she would have won because I don't even think the Democrats were trying. Because I got this whole theory. I'm like, y'all ain't even trying to win. Y'all not trying to win.
I think there's a certain line where the presence of Trump allows them to fundraise at entirely new levels because they can point to all of the evils of Trump, and we need this donation to fight this from Trump and this donation to fight this from Trump. So there's all of these opportunities for them to fundraise on the basis that Trump is in office, and ultimately Trump works really well for them in that sense. And I think for the most part they're more interested in fundraising and getting donations and doing all of those kinds of things, which they can turn around and use for self-enrichment and enhance life for themselves. um I think that matters far more to them than actually doing good for people.
I'm gonna say this, and bingo was his name. Oh, that is 100% it. I'm like, this is what they've done with women's rights over their own bodies. Like they literally had the chance to codify Roe v. Wade.
Oh, they had multiple opportunities,
Multiple.
but it's a great thing to fundraise off of.
It's and this is why I'm like, why now, National Organization Women, are y'all still out here telling us to vote for this? I don't understand. Well, I understand, but if that's your goal, this party has not met it. And you just said it. It's fundraising. And so, yes, I'm gonna go back here because I gotta talk about our fundraiser. Ha ha ha. I'm so glad he said that. See, I'm so glad that Joe brought that up because
Right here for you.
August the 30th, we're gonna have a JFA Fundraising-A-Thon, but it'll start at 6. So it won't start at 7, it'll start at 6. I'm prepared for a 3-hour show. We're going to have music. We're going to have, I'm still trying to think about what talent I will talk about. I don't know yet, but we've got so far 2. So make sure you're signing up to participate, because unlike other parties, we don't pay people. I mean, Dr. West didn't have a lot of money at all. Um, and I think that's a shame how he got dragged through by accepting and then returning that from Harlan Crow. Because personally, I would have took it and said, "Oh well, you don't like it, there, door, hit it." Because you was a white supremacist, want to give black me money. Hey, it's whatever. It's whatever. But the campaign did so much with so little.
Mhm.
But again, we still need little. We don't need $2 billion. That's ridiculous. But we need a whole lot more than what we got. So consider making your donations. But you said it. It's just a fundraising.
And and I
Go
would
ahead.
say it goes beyond, yes, donations as far as financial goes, but also donations as far as time goes. And it's
There you go.
so
That's another
it's the
thing.
opportunity to, be talking to your neighbor, to, gather signatures wherever you happen to be, if that's what's going on. What are the things that need to happen in your state to move this forward? Get on the ballot line. Maybe it's offering your time in the sense of being a candidate. um, what is it that you have that you can bring to the table to help build out this party and make this happen?
Absolutely. Yes, because time, we're preparing for 2026 and 2028 because we have 2 elections that are coming up. And we're going to need people to hit the streets all over again. We're going to need people to volunteer their times to collect signatures. And let me tell you something, as a signature gatherer, that's not my breast lane. I don't do a good job at that. It's not for me. I need as much training as I possibly can, because I got so tired of arguing with people. I got so tired, and it can be disheartening because, one, nobody's paying us. We weren't RFK. It amazes me that RFK had $50 million, but Dr. West got on more state ballots than he did. And I'm like,
Mhm.
how did that work out? But that just says there were better volunteers than Tracy out there, that did the job that needs to be done. And so hopefully we will get, no, we will get volunteers to do that. I'm not going to say hopefully, we will get the volunteers that are not only willing to donate their dollars, but their time, because it takes both. So thank you for bringing that up. Um, I want you to answer this one before I get to the next question. The Justice for All Party should reach out to Sharma Sawant for running for Senate in Seattle, Washington.
I mean, Shauna's incredible. So I mean, if she was open to partnering and running and working with us or being in that, I don't know how she's connected as with what she's doing. Um, party wise, I know she's, because let's see, what was it? Socialist Alternative became Fight Back or Workers Strike Back. I don't know how that fits on the party front or where she's running. Or I mean, if she was open to, working with us, then I would say absolutely. Why wouldn't you? I mean, somebody who has a track record of not just um, winning elections, but actually getting policy passed that makes life better for people, that actually does the work of justice for all. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I would assume that our Washington contingent um, would work to make sure and reach out and connect that way. I think anywhere where you get, candidates of that nature, yeah, let's connect, let's talk to them, let's see what we can do to bring, um, those kinds of people. And I think the biggest challenge is right now is that, Justice for All doesn't have anything to necessarily bring to her. It's sort of a one-sided partnership. So if she wants to help and Justice for All move forward, we don't have the structure, we don't have the funding. Those are all things that are in the process of being built out and connected and developed. And actually, Washington's probably further along than most other states in that front. But often, um, I think you run to a spot where just from a political process, you would say, okay, we are going to partner, and if you're going to partner, then both halves of that partnership bring something to the table. Um, Now, I think we've got some awesome people in Washington State, so maybe there is something that we have to offer that way from that crowd. But I think generally speaking across the country, because we're still developing and building into all of those components and systems and structures and things. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest challenge at this point.
Yep. Now here is the next one. I think this is Windra. Joe, please tell us about yourself and your commitment to helping people expand their horizons.
I would love some clarification on what's meant by expand their horizons, in the chat. So if I could get some follow up on that or a little clarification. But yeah, no, I can tell a little bit of my backstory and sort of how I landed where I'm at now, and in impacts and different things in my life. I think if you go back, so if you go back in time, you go back 2002. So we're, good 23 years ago. Um, I was a youth pastor who was heading off to seminary to go do like the full-on pastoral training kind of thing. I had grown up in a very conservative household. The joke in the family and in the years since is my dad, who has since passed, was conservative enough to make Rush Limbaugh look like a liberal. And so I sort of grew up in that context in that space. And actually, if you go back even further, I think it was my junior year of undergrad, I had a class where we read a book that talked about educational disparities in the United States. And having grown up in such a conservative, structured, like, there's this reality that when you live in that world, and when you look like me and you're in that world, then you assume everybody else has the exact same experience you do in the world, and people don't. I was white, upper middle class, had all of the sort of perks and values and benefits that come with that. um, and at least sort of the social aspects that way. um, but we read this book, and I remember one of the chapters in the book was on East St. Louis. And I read about education systems and structures in East St. Louis. And at the time, I thought this just can't be true, because I thought that it was what it described was so. Um, it seemed to be so beyond, because the lack of care for kids was beyond anything I could even imagine. And so that was like, that would have been like, what, 95, 96, somewhere in there is when I took that class. And then 2002, so six years later or so, I end up going to seminary in St. Louis. And when we arrive, we're all assigned a church that we're supposed to attend for like the time that we're there. And I happen to be assigned to Unity in East St. Louis. And so my first Sunday morning driving into East St. Louis to go to church, I'm driving by school buildings that are quite literally falling apart. And I'm meeting, like, I get to the church and there's like a bunch of kids that are like hanging out there because they're like, hey, there's adults here who are going to talk to me. And like third graders who have already been kicked out of school for misbehavior. And I mean, it was just like, everything I experienced showing up in East St. Louis in those days, instead of the book like overstating the reality, my remembrance of the book seemed to understate the reality. It was almost like, if we tell you the truth, it is going to be so, it's going to seem so outlandish that you won't believe it. And so we're going to tone it down, hopefully hoping that you'll believe it and understand and recognize the reality of what's going on here. And so for me, it was this massive eye-opening, holy crap, this world, this country that I live in is not anything like the country that I thought I lived in. I had been so sheltered and so bubbled and so contained in my own little sphere, and I was just oblivious to anything that was outside of it. And so it was this really profound awakening experience for me. And I was like, I need to rethink how I understand myself. I need to rethink how I understand this country. I need to rethink everything. And so that sort of set me on an initial journey that way. And then I've had other experiences in my life since then that have really forced me to rethink everything, from not just the country, but theology and faith and like all of it. It's all been broken down and deconstructed and having to rebuild with new information, repeatedly over the last number of years, or I guess in this case the last few decades, or a couple decades. It's been a pretty substantial experience that way. And I think out of all of that, and maybe this is what comes into that question about people expanding their horizons. That's been my process, as I've had to have my horizons expanded. I had such a narrow view of reality and such a bound up and protective bubble view of reality, for the first, you know 20, almost 30 years of my life. um, and so there's been a lot of horizon expanding for me, seeing a much bigger world. um, and I spent a lot of time actually while I was in St. Louis. So I obviously I spent a bunch of time in East St. Louis, and then ended up also doing a lot of work out of a church that sort of sat on on one side of the church was the St. Louis University medical campus, and on the other side was like, a connection to the hood. And we had like a Rastafarian who lived in the basement of the church that, I ended up hanging out with him, and we had to do a lot of work to rehab this physical structure. And so at points we were bringing guys that were, coming out of jail, and we were teaching them, um, how to roof and how to do kinds of like, construction related stuff. And we were partnering with them. We would have construction workers on site who would be teaching them, but we'd be there helping them, and they'd be working with us, and we'd be hanging out. And so I remember, we had one night we were up on this roof. you know we're up in this, it's a 12-12 pitch roof, so it's this really steep angled roof, 30 feet off the ground. Like if we went down, it was over. And we're up there throwing around and putting in, shingling and re-roofing this place, because when we first got there and it would rain, you'd see it rain inside the church. And so we had to, totally go and re-roof it and reset it. And but we got down off of this roof, and we're looking around at night and going, oh my gosh, how were we even seeing up there? But we had wanted to finish off this section. And so we kept pushing and kept pushing. And then, so we came down, it was like, it's dark. And this guy looks at me and he's like, I missed my bus. I'm going to need a ride home tonight. And he lived in North St. Louis, which again is an area where like sort of if you are white, you're told don't go to East St. Louis. If you're white, you're told don't go to North St. Louis. If you're white, you're told not to. I mean, all of these different. So I end up giving him a ride home that night, and find myself in all of these neighborhoods that I've been told you don't go there. This is not the place to be. This is not what to do. This is and did I get some strange looks like, what's that guy doing here? Absolutely. But it again, all of it became this opportunity to see a world that I was either unaware that it existed or was told to fear. And it broke down all of these preconceived notions I had about all of these places. And so absolutely expanded my horizons. And so I think in a lot of ways, um, part of my life is now helping people to expand their horizons, helping people to see things in a way maybe that they hadn't seen them before. So I think that's one thing that could tie into that, um, expanding the horizons thing. Um, and then I often I spend a lot of time arguing for a world where, um, we make shifts in major movements. I sort of have categorized these where we talk about moving from a culture of shame to one of embrace. Um, how do we move from a culture that focuses on performance and moves to one of authenticity? How do we move from a culture of, um, exploitation to one of solidarity? How do we move from consumption to what I would call recreation, which is I would then break down recreation, into a mix of creativity and rest and connection and community, sort of things that way. And so constantly I find myself in different spaces, inviting people into different ways of seeing the world, different ways of embracing the world. I'm a funeral officiant primarily by trade these days, and so I help people move through grief. And how do you find healthy, thriving life on the opposite side of losing a loved one? Um, how do you? So I guess in a sense, yeah, that's sort of me, and that's sort of my story, and that's where I'm at.
That was a lot, but thank you. I'm glad now
You're
at least I'm
welcome.
like, well, at least I know that your daddy was boy. I'm like, is his daddy my dad? Cause yeah, that Rush Limbaugh, I'm like, yeah, that I'm like, and it's not I'm like, do we have the same father? We can't possibly have the same father, but I think we do. So what I want to talk about also, oh, we got another comment. Yollywood News with Diva Tomboyish. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for tuning in.
I
Um,
love Diva Tomboyish. That is
yeah,
fantastic.
that's
I'm like, my mind's all over the place on what that could mean, but like I dig it.
I can't even come up with anything original, just like my name. I'm like my name, that's just about how far I go. So I'm about to ask the really hypocritical question because I just said I don't want to run for office. However, um, what would you say to someone that's kind of like, I'm tired. I want to run for Congress, not just to help JFA to be, because I don't think a lot of people understand for us to be an official party, we had to have 20 people in different regions um, to run for Congress, and they each had to raise $5,000. Someone comes up to you and says, I really want to run. I really want to run, but I want to run with a party that is for what I'm for. And it seems like Justice for All would be a good fit. What would you tell them?
I so they I mean, I think at that point, I mean, you start talking about like, when you say justice for all is a good fit, let's talk about what do you mean by that, and where where is their alignment, and then you start, because ultimately they'd have to be. I mean, I guess you're assuming that you have are we assuming that somebody has ballot
No,
access, or
they're just thinking about it. They're like at the
they're
very
just
beginning
thinking about it?
stages. Yeah, they're at the thinking about it.
I would say then we definitely need to, I mean, obviously have some, there needs to be conversation about, like, with other people in that state, in that locality, and making sure that you're getting the other people that are engaged in the Justice for All movement, or like, yeah, we got synchronicity here, we've got alignment, we're tuned in on, um vision, values, story, all that sort of stuff, we are like, we're in good space that way. And then you're starting to develop out of that people who are going to be interested in, all right, what do we need to do to get you on the ballot in this locality? Do we, because you've got 50 different states as well as different territories that all basically have their own unique path to ballot access. Um, and so then you've got to start digging in with your Secretary of State. What does that look like in your place? So are we aligned? Let's get together, let's connect, let's make sure that we're on the same page, and that like you all want me to run and move on this and act on this. And then, all right, what is it going to take to make that happen? And how do we begin to network and get the volunteers needed to make those things happen and build that out? Um, I mean, I think that's where it starts, is let's make sure that we're unified. And once we are, let's figure out what do we do to make that happen.
That was a really great answer. I had a totally different answer, but that's okay.
What's yours? I'd love to hear it.
Mine is, if you want to run for office, whether it's other parties or Justice for All, I agree with most of everything that you said. You got to make sure it's a great fit, because you have people that want to run for office that have no business running. I believe that down my soul. I
Mhm.
believe it. Like, you should never run for office. You aren't authentic. There should be like a testing process, like hey, this is why I want to run. Because if you can't talk to a committee that says, yeah, this is a good idea or not a good idea, how are you going to talk to the public, right? There should be a criteria, like, this is the criteria you meet. And we do have that in place, right? There is a credentialing committee. So there's
Mhm.
criteria that you are going to have to meet. And I'm not one to just say, oh, everybody come. No, you're going to have to pass. We're going to draw the line, and we're going to make you cross it. Because I'm not going to be the one looking stupid. You all ran a Nazi. No, see, we didn't know. No, 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 no. We're going to do credentialing. We're going to do a background check. If
Mhm.
you run around with children in an inappropriate way, first of all, we're calling the police. And second of all, you're not our candidate. We don't want you. If you say,
What?
oh, I'm a Democrat, but I would vote, no, 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 no.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a, you know, part of the challenge in all of this is you've actually got to run people who theoretically can win.
Exactly. That's why I think that's why
And they're
I hesitate in running, because I'm like, yeah, I can't win. Like city council, pretty sure I could probably do it, because in city council they run alphabetical order, and my last name starts with the letter C, so I'd be right there at the top.
Mhm.
It could just be an easy win. But Congress, ooh, yeah. See, what's gonna happen is, you are
Yeah.
so right. You have to want to win. And that's another thing that I would love to talk about in deeper conversation. Where do third party candidates, if I hear one more person come out here, especially y'all presidential candidates, talking about you want 5% of vote, go away. Don't run. Just don't run. Don't waste my time in gathering signatures. I just want 5%. I get it. You want 5%
Mhm.
so you can get matching federal funds. Understood. But if you're not in the race to win the race and
Mhm.
to advance your platform, why are you running? For what reason am I sitting out here collecting signatures?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the goal has to be to win. Now, I can understand having a long-term strategy and saying, all right, we recognize that certain things need to be in place in order to win and have an ongoing sustaining presence. And part of that, might end up being, part of the strategy over time is to get that 5%, to get the matching funds so you can have more of that but the other side then is, there's basically, in order to win, there's two different paths. You've got the money path, you've got the people path. um you know you look at Zoran in New York City, the number of volunteers that he had out, the number of doors knocked on, the number of conversations they had, the amount of engagement that took place that way. And then, you get the volunteers that help put together the killer social media campaign and that presence and the energy that they were able to develop. And so they partnered, conversations with people along with the social media present, and that not having that same amount of money, well, they were able to, replace what, a Cuomo or whoever else would spend on ad campaigns with people actually having conversations. And so if you have that massive grassroots effort, so then you can go, maybe the matching funds on the federal funds, maybe that's not the part, although they do have quite a matching program as far as funds go in New York City for lower tier candidates. And so what donations do come in get amplified significantly. And I know that, I mean, they've got something like that in Denver as well, where if you're in Denver and you're running and you agree not to take certain kinds of funds like PAC funds and stuff like that, you can actually get some significant matching funds to bolster your campaign that way. So
Exactly.
it's a matter of being able to work with what you've got that way.
And for those that say it doesn't, you got to have money to win. There was a point in his campaign where he stopped asking for donations. He literally said, "Don't donate." Now he's not saying that now. He's definitely not saying that now, because now it's a general. But there was a point in his campaign, I remember, where he said, "I don't need money." Now, Justice for All, we're not going to be doing that. No. But again, we're not going to be taking APAC money and big pharma money and big tech, anything with big in it. No. But that speaks to, we have to establish a ground game, right? We have to knock on doors. Do I like knocking on doors? No, I don't. But guess what? I got to suck it up, buttercup, and knock on doors, because that's what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, guys, that's what it's going to take. It's going to take all of us working together. And again, before I get to the last thing, make sure you're sharing this, because I do think there are some people out there that want to run and they're looking for a place where they're, and read the platform. First of all, go to justiceforall.us and read the platform. Read it and understand what it's saying. And of course, once you agree with those, we have hundreds of ways to get in contact with people. Be the change. Obama, as much as his name makes me want to throw up, he did say one thing that I think is right. You're the change that's needed. You, not a politician, not the electoral process. It's you that are making the change. So if you want a change, there's no place other than look than that person that's staring back at you in the mirror. And so I just wanted to say that to just kind of encourage people. Again, we're not having a contest because everybody won the two. I can't even think of a good contest question. I'll probably have that the 30th though. Last question I want to ask is this. So, well, the second and last question. Second and last question. So somebody like me that's hesitating, that people have said run for office, and she, because I refer to myself in the third person, can't understand where people are coming with this from. She knows she has no chance of winning because that's her goal. I'm not one of those that believe there's other ways of winning. No, the way I win is to get more votes than the other person. That's it. I'm no cap on that. What would you say to the person that's hesitating? Because this is where I go kind of back and forth on this one. What would you say to a person like me that's hesitating?
I think I'd invite an exploration of the root of hesitation. So what's behind that hesitation? Where does that come from? And if it's, you were talking about, you feel really good about the person that's running like for Congress, and okay, there's lots of other offices out there. So who don't you feel good about?
Our senators, they're garbage.
Okay.
Garbage.
Okay. So I don't feel good about the senators. and why don't I feel good about them, and what would be my strategy for laying out why um not that I know of on that question, no. um I'm not sure who's heading that up for us at this point, but I have not heard of any meetings yet, so no. um so yeah, I'd ask, yeah, why do you why are you so why are you doubting yourself? What do you think that you need to, what's at the root of the self-doubt? And let's see if we can address that. If it's just like, is it imposter syndrome? Is it, oh, I feel like the guy that I would run against is actually good, or the gal that I would run against is actually good? Okay, then find a different race to run in where you actually really dislike who it is, whether it's your congressperson or your city council person or your school board person or your dog catcher or wherever it happens to sit. Maybe it's like, hey, I don't feel, maybe the at the root of it's like, I feel like I need some experience and I need to develop some momentum. And then you go, okay, well, maybe instead of starting at running for president, you start running at, city council or school board or dog catcher or someplace that, and so you start to develop some experience and you start to connect with some more people and you start to develop your that base around you that's going to help you propel and move forward. You develop your name recognition, you develop some things that you've done policy wise. You can say, this is how I helped people. When I was dog catcher, we reduced community bites by 75%. I don't know what it is. I'm just, when I
Right.
was on the school board, you know, we saw um, truancy drop by 15% because we did this and this and this. And I will bring that same sort of common sense policy to this. Um, what we saw, yeah, whatever it is, you start developing some things that you see some stuff happening, and so you develop that momentum, you gain some recognition, you gain some confidence, you start building yourself into where you want to head and where it's going to go from there. And at some level, that's how this is going to work. I mean, it's I wish that it would be the fast route and that we could just have, I
I don't.
loved a number of years back where they had the whole brand new Congress concept, and they were like, we are going to find people to run in every single race so we can have a unified, um a unified agenda, a unified platform, a unified everything, so when we elect all these people we can actually make change happen. And we're going to be able to like run them, use overlapping campaign materials so we can reduce overall costs. And I mean, I love, conceptually, I love that, but you also need to be in a spot where you're going to develop voter trust and belief and recognition and all of those things. And at some level, that all starts with relationships.
And you just outlined another reason why I don't want to run, because I'm not to that point. I'm just the agitator. I'm good at agitating. Um, and so, and we'll explore that on August the 16th. We will explore that, but I just got a whole lot of hesitations.
Well, and,
Um,
and maybe that's, I think we absolutely need some agitators in the mix out there, because people need, at some level, if people are just used to putting, like in Indiana, a fairly conservative place, people are probably just used to putting a check mark either next to the name they recognize or the one that has an R next to it.
right, right. That's
And
exactly our
so
state.
there needs to be some agitators who highlight why you should not do that, and make people think twice about just doing that, and think about the way that what they're doing is going to negatively impact them. And then if you come in with some, hey, this is something different that we can do, so you've got some policy, so you create some discontent and some discomfort over here. And maybe, that impacts all these other races in Indiana, because you're developing enough of of an agitation and a discontent with the status quo that it now opens the doors for other people.
See, Joe, what you were supposed to say is what you were originally saying. No, don't do this. But I want to get to my last question, but before I do that, I'm going to get this from Lad Nelson. Mandemi proved that meeting and reaching people needs is stronger than any amount of money. That's how much suffering the people have been through. That I agree
Hmm.
with. Now, is he as left as I'm like, no. I'm like, he's not out here talking like, hey, let's make prostitution legal. He's not saying things that I would consider, wait a minute, he said what? He's saying normal things, freezing
Hmm.
rents and free bus. That's not crazy.
Let's take care of people.
People,
Let's
yeah,
have a society that actually benefits human beings rather than corporations.
yeah, that's so whack.
Radical.
Just like so. The last question I want to ask is, what skill set do you think that you bring to the Justice for All party?
What skill set do I bring? Um, no, obviously, I have quite a bit of background in the realm of public speaking,
No, really?
communication. Yeah. um, I think I'm fairly good at taking complex ideas and breaking them down and explaining them in a way that um, makes a complex idea accessible.
I've been really thinking about that lately. And so now I'm going to start asking that question because I'm thinking, what skill set do I bring besides a big mouth? I can't, I'm just like, okay, let me think. So now I'm going to start asking everybody that question because I think we all have whatever skills it is that you have, whether it's public speaking, whether it's organizing, whether it's fundraising, whatever that skill is. If you are in support of the Justice for All platform, we definitely have space for you. We definitely have space for you. So I would really like people to think, especially those who come in and check in every week, to start thinking about their skill set and how they
Mhm.
can use it to advance the Justice for All party, whether that's locally or whether that's nationally. Um, are there any final things you want to leave with us, or any type of thing you want to talk about, or
I think I'm in a good space that way. I'm appreciating what's going on. I'm looking forward to seeing how things continue to move. Just an invitation to anyone who happens to be watching at this moment or somewhere down the line as it bounces around on YouTube. Um, Take a moment to check out the Justice for All website and check out the platform. And if you believe in what it says, and if you think that will create the kind of country that you want to live in and that you want the next generation to have, I'm at the spot at this point. I'm like, I'm not in this for me anymore. I'm in this for my kid. I'm in this for that next generation. I was just having dinner with some friends that I hadn't seen in probably a decade last night, and we were talking about my kid and their grandkid and the kind of country that's being passed on to that next generation and the amount of difficulty that is being handed down to those who come after us. And um, I'm not expecting um, the whole world to get fixed in my lifetime, but I believe that we can make a significant change for my kids' generation and the generations after that. And if I can play any part in making that happen, um, that's absolutely what I want to do. And that's
and
something worth investing time, energy, passion, talent, resources, whatever it is that you happen to have, that's worth investing in.
And with that, everybody, I want to thank everybody for joining us for our 21st episode. We made it past 20. I cannot believe it. We have made it past 20. And I got a big old huge announcement for the month of September. I'll tell you all now.
Is it the month of August or the month of September for this announcement?
September. Yes.
September.
Because I don't wait until people don't get us. I'm not one of these wait till the last minute and nope. I tell you,
have me hanging on a thread for a month and a half.
So I'm not going to do that. I am thinking about having guest host month. And the reason I'm thinking about having a guest host month, I'm pretty sure y'all tired of seeing my face every time getting on here. So I'm like, you know what? Give some other people a chance to host. I don't know how that's going to work out yet. You all may like them better than you like me. Wouldn't surprise me. But I'm really thinking about having some guest hosts. I'm really thinking about it. I'd be backstage because you can't get in unless I give you the link. But I'm really thinking about that because I'm like, I'm tired of because somebody's got to interview me. I'm the only person that has not been interviewed yet. And so I don't know how that's all going to work, but I've been really thinking about having some guest hosts because I think, one, y'all tired of seeing me. Joe, this is where you supposed to say, we're not tired of seeing you. You're great. After I told him to say it, right? But I think it gives it a little bit more levity and it'll expand because we're stuck. Yeah, we stuck. And this podcast needs to be out to as many people as possibly can. We need this podcast out there to as many supporters as Justice for All party as possible. Yes, I know it's not the official podcast of the party. It is not. It's the unofficial official podcast, but still.
It's officially unofficial.
Exactly. It's officially unofficial. That's exactly what it is. So just be thinking about that. But most importantly, I want to thank you for all for watching. We will be closing out July. I cannot believe July is over with. Remember to like this episode, share with your friends, share with the lady that's got too many cats, share with the person that you don't like, to the auntie you haven't talked to in 5 years, share with everybody that you can. We need to get the Justice for All message out there. This podcast plays a small part, but right now, that's what we need. So remember to go to justiceforall.us, justiceforall.us. One more time, justiceforall.us. We are a platform. Read about how we got started. Read about where we're going to go. I want to thank you all. And final word, join me tomorrow for Tracy's Week in Review, because boy, I got a humdinger for y'all tomorrow, because we got a candidate in Indiana that's going to make me just want to jump in and run, because this guy is crazy.
And you know you don't want to miss a humdinger.
Humdinger. It's like they let people like this run and I can't, nah. He's the main reason I'm thinking about it. He the main reason. But watch tomorrow. I'm going to talk all about him. The whole show may be about this guy. But thank you all so very much. Thank you, Joe, for coming on here. Thank you all for watching. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'm going to do the outro. I thank you all for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great evening.